Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's Comrade Dankey here again today, and I am overjoyed and I'm pissed off at the same time. I'm overjoyed because I got this very long, meticulously typed out comment. This is the kind of comment I dream of getting from people, alright? I almost came my pants when I saw this. Not literally, but I mean, still. I really appreciate re-education. I appreciate you taking the time to type all this out, sending me all these links. It's obvious you actually watched my video and listened to what I had to say. It's very shocking to me considering in the past people usually just accuse me of being like a troll or a grifter or some other like a leech on their popularity, what have you, and they don't really actually listen or acknowledge what I said. So I'm glad to see you, actually took me seriously. It's a welcome breath of fresh air. But all that's to say, I'm disappointed with YouTube because YouTube hid this comment from me. As you can see, we can go to like the 4-day mark and we can see that because he made the comment 4 days ago. This is the 5-day mark, the 4-day mark. The only comment I got from him on the 4-day mark was this one where you say, awesome, please send me the links. So YouTube, in its infinite wisdom, decided not to show me this extremely detailed, long-winded comment that I would absolutely love to see. Instead, YouTube decides it's important to show me the comments where I'm called a Jew and a cuck. So, thank you, YouTube, for showing me, chud comments, calling me a cuck mangina Jew boy. Meanwhile, you completely bury comments like this. I have to go to the video and manually scroll through all the comments to fucking see it. So fuck you, YouTube. Anyway, all that out of the way, I can finally respond to your comment. So you say, hey, thanks for talking about me. Even though I believe this video is extremely questionable and misrepresents most of my arguments, I'm happy to be scrutinized. We should question and be skeptical about any authority. So right off the bat, let me just say, it's not my intention to misrepresent anything you have to say, argue in bad faith, or do straw mans. I'm not about that kind of thing. That's not what I'm about, dog. And so if I did that, I don't have any qualms making a follow-up video to this, sort of clearing up any kind of misunderstandings I might have had. The last thing I want to do is misrepresent what you had to say. So you say, with that being said, I'm going to let you through a few points where I disagree. So why do I wear a Soviet hat? I like it. It's a cool hat. I like history, and I believe in many communist ideas. Am I not allowed to like it? To that I say, no, dude, you're allowed to like whatever you want. If you want to wear a Soviet hat, that's cool, dude. In fact, I like Soviet hats. I have one myself, and I wear it quite often. The only thing that I really have to say about it is that it's a little bit confusing. And it's not just you. I don't want to feel like I'm calling you specifically out on this. I see this with a lot of anarchists. They use the aesthetics of Soviet socialism, the aesthetics of Marxist-Leninism, and then in the next breath they turn around and they shit all over Soviet socialism and they shit all over Marxist-Leninism. So it comes across to me as a little bit inconsistent. It's like, do you like socialism? Do you like Marxist-Leninism, or do you not? If you don't, then why are you using the aesthetics of Marxist-Leninism? So, I mean, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you can't wear a Soviet hat. You can wear whatever hat you want. I'm just saying it's a little bit confusing for me, as a communist, to see an anarchist, wearing a Soviet hat, using the USSR national anthem, using the Internationale. These are all like Marxist symbols and Marxist songs and Marxist-Leninist symbols and Marxist-Leninist songs. And to see an anarchist use it, which of course anarchism and Marxism are opposed to one another, a little bit confusing for me. But I'm not going to sit here and gatekeep and tell you that you can't enjoy what you enjoy, you can't wear what you want to wear. That's bullshit. So you have my blessing to wear whatever you want, friend. Don't let me criticize your fashion choices like that. Don't let me discourage you from wearing whatever you want. So you say, if you want to I can't fucking read. If you have to defeat the state to have a revolution, what is wrong with talking about how the state is fascist and we have to fight it? You're off to a bad start here. All right, so I think when I looked at your series and it was a guide to the modern revolution, I thought, okay, this guy's going to tell us how to overthrow the bourgeoisie. And then you sort of zero in the first part, you zero in on fighting fascists. And I'm thinking to myself, like, is this guy only going to focus on fighting fascism, or is he going to try to tie this into fighting the overall capitalist power structure? Because obviously, I think fighting fascism is a good thing, but it's not the whole of the revolution. It's just a stepping stone in the revolution. So, that's the only thing I really have to say about that. You say I used a video from Tiananmen Square as an example of a person standing up against the state. I think I found that to be a little bit problematic because when you look at the Tiananmen Square, you actually see a lot of similarities with the modern day Hong Kong movement. It is a foreign backed, phony color revolution meant to destabilize a proletarian state and to allow capitalist infiltration. And so when you show the tank man from Tiananmen Square standing up against the evil, tanky authoritarian bastards, that to me sends a symbol like, hey, this is what direct action is. And I would disagree that that's not direct action. That's a phony, foreign-backed color revolution. It's about as direct as anything else the National Endowment of Democracy does, which is to say it's not direct action at all. It's not grassroots at all. It's a petty bourgeois reactionary opposition to proletarian gains. So you say, I also like the Internationale. It's a wonderful song about fighting for revolution. Why is this a problem? It's not really a problem. It's just, to me, it's more confusing than anything else. It kind of is like the Soviet hat thing. Why use the aesthetics of Marxist-Leninism if you're not a Marxist-Leninist? And, of course, the Internationale is sung by Marxists all around the world, not just Marxist-Leninist. But at the same time, Marxism and anarchism are opposed to one another. So it seems kind of weird to see an anarchist using the Internationale, which is sort of like the Marxist theme song, in their video. Just kind of like it's confusing to see an anarchist using the USSR theme song in their video. It kind of makes me ask the question, like, do you like the USSR or do you not? Do you think they're cool or do you not? So it's not really a problem so much as it's just more confusing than anything else. So you say direct action is political, but it achieves goals without the use of electoral politics. I think, yeah, I definitely misinterpreted what you were saying there, and that's on me. I thought you were basically trying to say that direct action is separated from politics. That, for the example, you have workers striking against the boss. I thought you were basically trying to say that there's no like underlying class dynamics at play in that strike. That direct action is like non-political. When in reality, you were just trying to say it's like grassroots action without the use of electoral politics. That's a fair statement, and I'd be more than happy to clear up that. I definitely misunderstood what you were trying to say there, but I wasn't trying to be pedantic. But I mean, you say that's a fair criticism. You should have been more accurate. It's all good. It's very easy to slip up and say something that you didn't intend. I find myself going through my videos time and time and time again, and I always catch things that I say, and I'm like, damn it, I should have phrased that differently, or I could have phrased that better. So I mean, I'm always catching stuff like that in my videos. So I mean, it's really not a big deal. You say, as for punching Nazis, I say in the clip, sometimes you still need to punch the Nazis though, just before you ask your question. So no, I do not condemn violence against Nazis. Well, that's good. I'm glad that you don't condemn violence against Nazis. Far too often I see people saying that we shouldn't punch Nazis just at all, and I think that's kind of foolish. You say sometimes you still need to punch the Nazis though. I mean, I agree with that. I think if you place the optics of trying to appeal to a broad demographic rather than using physical violence to confront fascism, I think it serves only to strengthen the fascist position and to weaken your own, because I think I said this in the video, that the fascists have no qualms using violence to push down any opposition to them. So the working class in turn has to be prepared to use violence to confront fascism. You can still debate fascist, and I think in the video I even say something like, it's great to debate fascist, we shouldn't go out of our way to do it, but we shouldn't back away from it either. We should not make that our priority, we shouldn't make that the only tool in our arsenal, but we should still have it in our arsenal. So, I'm glad to see you don't condemn violence against Nazis. So yeah, good to see that. So you say, next you start making the claim that I believe Nazis and neolibs are not part of the state, that they are mutually exclusive. I found this to be a wild straw man argument, but if I didn't make myself clear, that's my failure as a communicator. I was talking about how some Nazis and neolibs are foot soldiers. Fighting them is good, but we need a better strategy to destroy the system that creates them. I agree with you with this statement. I mean, fighting fascists, fighting neoliberals, that's all well and good, but we need a strategy to destroy the overarching capitalist system. And I think I was trying to say this in the video. I'll just say this again though. I think you and I agree on many different topics and stances. I think we disagree over the very important broad approach to how to do revolution. But in terms of little things like this, fighting against fascism, trying to destroy the overarching system that creates them, that's all good. So I think I misunderstood. I thought you were trying to say basically that capitalists were on a rung separate than fascists and neoliberals, and that fascists and neoliberals were really just puppets dancing on the strings of the capitalist, when in reality Nazis and neolibs are just as capitalist as any other capitalist out there. So if I misunderstood what you were trying to say there, I guess that's my fault. But moving on, you say, next you talk about optics. This is actually a great criticism. I actually have made several videos on this, and my position is nuanced. I discussed how a diversity of tactics is important in almost every one of my videos. Sometimes we need to focus on optics, but that is the point of having a diversity of tactics. I would suggest checking out this link for a better explanation, which I'll be more than happy to do that. Thank you for linking this. And I'll just say, when it comes to optics, I have found that organizations are either made or broken by their insistence on pushing optics. I find this to be a very toxic element in left-wing organization because they are so focused. And I'm not saying you do this, but a lot of left-wingers are so focused on the optics of appealing to broad demographics, centrist and right-wingers and all that, that they wind up diluting their message and their goals to such the extent that they basically become libs. And I would hate to see that happen to any left-wing movement. So that's why I come out so hard against optics and the insistence that optics should take primacy over actual practice. I see that tendency a lot in anarchism. I'm not saying that you think that practice should be before optics, but I am saying that that is a common sentiment, that we should concern ourselves primarily with optics and secondarily with practice. So you say, next you talk about how you want to debate me on if Nazis are stupid. Okay, now at this point I feel like we're slipping into bad faith territory. I will concede that some Nazis are stupid, but there's no greater danger than underestimating your opponent. Alright, I think in the video response I said something along the lines of, I mock chuds and Nazis on this channel all the time. And I do. I mock them a lot. But I don't do them the discourtesy of assuming that they're not a threat. I treat fascists like they are a threat, because they obviously are. They're not a novelty. There's a lot of cases like the mainstream media and liberals will almost look at Nazis and white supremacists like they're animals in a zoo, like they're a kind of novelty to just point and laugh at. And while they are pointing and laughing, the Nazis are preparing the nooses to wrap around the necks of the degenerates. So, I'm with you on that. Mocking Nazis is certainly part of our arsenal, but giving them a knuckle sandwich obviously should be a much more effective solution. So, do I think that you don't think Nazis are stupid? I don't know. I know that you have a white supremacist background, so I'm sure you're more familiar with the ins and outs of Nazi, mentality than I am. I'm sure you can vouch that the majority of the Nazis out there are pretty fucking dumb. And, I'm just going to say, if you believe in fascism, if you believe in white supremacy, if you're a Nazi, you are stupid on some level. You can be a genius in some other field of your life. You could be a fucking rocket scientist or a neurosurgeon. But when it comes to politics, you're stupid. That's all I was trying to say. Uh, Now, I mean, Nazis can organize along smart lines. They can be smart in their organization, but the ideology is stupid. So if you were trying to say, and I think in retrospect, you were trying to say that Nazis are using clever tactics. So, I agree with you on that. The Nazis use clever tactics, uh, but, I also think that Nazis are fucking stupid. And if somebody comes along saying that Nazis aren't stupid, I'd be more than willing to debate them. It doesn't have to be you, it can be literally anybody. So you say, now we start talking about suits. Again, it feels like bad faith territory. First, wear whatever you like, friend, be you. But the idea that a suit or even nice clothes are expensive is just untrue. You can get lots of great clothes for very cheap at secondhand stores. Now, if you've heard propaganda that tells you people in suits are bad, cool. That's your opinion based on your experience. Since my experience is different than yours, so is my opinion. It's cool to have different opinions. That's how we find solutions. I agree with that. I think all that I was trying to say about the suit is that it doesn't matter if Richard Spencer is wearing an expensive $1,000 suit or if he's wearing a fucking stained wife beater t-shirt and his boxer shorts. His message has appealed to those reactionary elements within the proletariat regardless of what he wears. And so it's not so much about the suit, it's about the message he's putting out there. That's all I was trying to say. So you say, I never say people become Nazis because they're in suits. That's just a blatant straw man. I was talking about optics. My experience, people in suits are generally looked at as being more trustworthy than people in black bloc. I don't think that way, but Joe Sixpack probably does. That's also a fault of the capitalist media, the mainstream media, painting Antifa as being this sort of violent terrorist organization. So I can understand from an optics point of view why you would say that we should wear nice suits and present ourselves in a clean, orderly, clean cut manner. I can understand why you would say that instead of wearing dressing in black and basically looking like a scary criminal in a comic book. Now, as far as what Joe Sixpack believes, Joe Sixpack, he could be a conservative, he could be a liberal, he could be a centrist, he could be a Marxist. So I mean, I think he's not going to be so much influenced by the clothing than the message itself. And if Joe Sixpack was really, an honest person, he would try to look into what Antifa actually stands for. He would try to look into what Richard Spencer actually stands for. And if Joe Sixpack was a decent person, he would agree that Antifa is the side to support. But I can agree with you on a completely surface level analysis that Antifa looks scary and Richard Spencer does not look scary. Richard Spencer looks like a Sunday school teacher or a pastor or something. I just picture a guy standing up in front of a group of people wearing a suit. My brain immediately reverts back to my Christian upbringing. I think of pastors, I think of people like that. So yeah, I mean, Richard Spencer, he presents himself like a sheep, but in reality he's a fucking wolf. So if that's all you were trying to say, that's fine. You say, I don't condone violence on YouTube. Violence is against YouTube's terms of service. It can get my channel taken down. And, these are sort of risky waters we're treading. Or I guess I'm treading. Because I do say that we need a violent revolution. That being said, the conditions for revolution here in the United States are not... It's not ready yet. Our society isn't ready for a revolution. The period we're in now is a period that is great for building and expanding class consciousness. We are in a pre-revolutionary period. The material conditions of society have to get worse The working class has to be pushed to a point of desperation before revolution can actually be made possible. And I'm not an accelerationist. I think that we should do any measures possible to alleviate the burden on the working class. I'm just trying to say you're not going to see me being a fucking guerrilla warrior going out training paramilitary groups to smash the bourgeois state anytime soon, because I don't think we are in a revolutionary period right now. I think we're in a pre-revolutionary period, and we can use this opportunity to build and expand class consciousness. But I'm not going to be one of those LARPers that, locks and loads and goes and tries to take over City Hall. I think that's adventurism, and that's stupid. So, in terms of advocating for a revolution, I believe that, and most Marxist-Leninists believe this, that the only means by which the proletariat can seize power in a society is through violent revolution. It's not going to come through electoralism. It's not going to come through activism, peaceful activism, that kind of thing. It is only through violence that the bourgeoisie will be forced to relinquish their holdings and the proletariat can seize state power. So you're never going to see me saying that we shouldn't do a violent revolution, because obviously as a Marxist-Leninist, I think violent revolution is the only way to establish a dictatorship of the proletariat. On the other hand, you're not going to see me advocate for violence and call for certain people to be killed. That's obviously stupid. It's adventuristic, and like you said, it can get your channel taken down. And I'm pretty sure YouTube would take my channel down if I started advocating for mass uprisings against the state right here, right now. You say, now, mask. I always talk about when and where it's appropriate to wear a mask. It's very important not to be doxxed or have facial recognition software used on you. So I'm glad that you made this video. Had I known that you actually made a video about this, I probably wouldn't have gone into the explanation as to why Antifa wears masks. Like I said, the only videos of yours I've seen is the one where you talk about tankies, the one where you talk about the withering away of the state, and then all the ones where you're giving the guide to the modern revolution. So I didn't know that you had made a video about this topic already. I'm glad that you did. Because I thought you were basically trying to say that Antifa shouldn't wear masks because masks are scary looking and dangerous. And I thought you were, and maybe I'm a dick for thinking this, but I really thought you were that naive to say that, like, oh, you shouldn't wear a mask because it makes you look like a bad guy. And, but it turns out it's a little bit more nuanced than that. You think that you should wear a mask in certain situations where it's appropriate and all that stuff, so you're not doxxed. So you understand those kinds of things. I guess in hindsight, you were talking about, once again, just the very surface level optics of the situation, where you see the scary man dressed in black wearing a mask punch the clean-cut man wearing a suit. And from a purely optics perspective, I can understand why you would say that's not a good look. From a perspective of building a revolution, I would say, that's an important feature, to be able to punch a Nazi and run away. You say I chose the plumber or nurse examples because both of those professions wear masks. I could also throw in a painter or a drywaller. The point is to look less threatening so the public sees regular people punching Nazis and not the black bloc. That's why most IRL groups use gray bloc. And this is the first I'm hearing of the gray bloc. I've literally never heard of the gray bloc before. But I basically thought you were condemning anti-fascist action against Nazis. I thought you were talking shit about this guy because he was wearing a mask, and heroes shouldn't have to wear masks and hide their face. And I thought you were going down that road. And I've seen people go down that road criticizing Antifa for wearing a mask, and they completely don't understand that doxing is a very real threat and a very real thing that anti-fascist activists face, and so obviously you gotta wear a mask. So you say, okay, now the bit where you insinuate I'm scolding the hero for the brave work they did that day, using direct action against Richard Spencer, almost single-handedly destroying Spencer's career and all future Unite the Right rally, is very bad faith. I commend this person for their heroism in so many videos. The point was only about what they were wearing. It's like you are actively trying to find things to be mad about. Well, like I said at the very beginning of the video, I'm not trying to do bad faith arguments. I'm not trying to misrepresent you or anything like that. I legitimately thought you were scolding the anti-fascist activist for punching Richard Spencer. I can go and look at the video again. I've already watched it over again like several times, but I can go watch it over again. It just seemed to me like you were throwing that guy under the bus and saying like, how dare he wear a mask and punch Richard Spencer? That's a bad look, dog. I think we should do it differently, and he should dress as a painter or a plumber. And I disagreed with that. But if you're only talking about the optics, then that's fine. From from an optic point of view, I can understand why you would have disagreements with anti-fascists dressed in black punching a guy who's clean cut and wearing a suit. So I can understand all of that. I basically thought that you were saying we should debate Nazis, not punch them. Look at this video, this example of this Antifa punching a Nazi isn't that bad. And that's what I thought you were trying to say in your video. So you say it's important that we don't give CNN and the state more ammo against us. They will already spin everything we do as violence. So if somebody dressed up as a nurse or firefighter socked Richard Spencer, the public see themselves socking that Nazi fuck, not someone who looks like a bank robber. Listen, Black Bloc is cool as fuck and serves a purpose, but it should be limited to specific actions, and please look into the Gray Bloc. Well, I will do that. I will look into the Gray Bloc. Maybe if the guy had still worn a mask, but it was like a flu mask, he would have looked a little bit better. But I think you are sort of overblowing the threatening look of Antifa. I mean, most people understand, or at least I hope most people understand, that anti-fascists are anti-fascist. They are fighting against Nazis, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists. They're not out there beating up your average, Joe Six-Pack or whatever. So, when I see the Black Bloc, I don't really feel threatened because I'm not a fucking fascist. But it is clear to see that if you watch the mainstream media and you buy into all the fear-mongering propaganda about Antifa, yeah, you could maybe see a Black Bloc and think that they look scary and that they're threatening and the optics aren't too good. And so, I mean, I can understand where you're coming from. And I am glad that you, commend the Antifa for punching Richard Spencer. I'm glad that you did that. From what I saw in your video, it sounded like you weren't doing that, but I am glad to see that you actually do admire him for punching Richard Spencer in the face. It's one of my favorite moments. Let's see. The last bit you go into it is a rant about how capitalism has a massive propaganda machine that will fight against us. And you insinuate that I alone, with my YouTube channel of, at the time, 1,000 subs, will take on capitalism alone. All hail my bravery. That's not a good take, friend, because this is one part of the several-part series that discusses the use of mass line tactics. That is a revolutionary Marxist tactic that's been used by almost every successful socialist country on earth to overthrow capitalism. Okay, so what I was trying to say is that the entire mainstream media, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's owned by 6 corporations. These 6 corporations control everything that we see and hear in the mainstream. And so they have millions of dollars, probably billions of dollars worth of capital invested in countering socialist talking points and promoting reactionary propaganda. So all I was trying to say is that if you are going to reject the use of violence and only try to accomplish a revolution through debate or through outreach, then you are going to be pitted up against the mainstream media, which has probably billions of dollars of capital investment against you. So it's an extremely one-sided fight. To think that a single YouTube channel, which with about 1,000 subs, or in my case, a YouTube channel with about 600 to 700 subs, can take on the entirety of the capitalist mainstream media, and this is a substitution for doing a violent revolution, I think is a little bit naive to think that. Then you say mass line tactics. I mean, mass line tactics, we can talk about what that means. Uh, from my understanding, the mass line has its origins in Marxist-Leninism. It started with Mao, and Mao developed the mass line. And so, all that I was saying about mass line is that it seems weird for an anarchist to sort of adopt a tactic used by Marxist-Leninism, because the mass line tactic was implying that there was sort of a proletarian party, a vanguard party that was helping to lead and guide the revolution along. So you say, all in all, I really loved your presentation. You have a great voice, your flow is fantastic, and I enjoyed the show. Unfortunately, you misrepresented and strawmanned almost every one of my arguments. You argued in bad faith throughout, refused to think about my opinions, but rather reacted, often in ignorance, and it seems like you have a little understanding of socialist anarchist history and tactics from this video. But I would happily be wrong about that. Uh, so, I'm glad that you're a friendly guy. You seem like a friendly guy. I'm sorry if I came across as a dickhole. You have to understand, my past interactions with anarchism has been very mixed. There's anarchists like you, Re-Education, that are actually like decent human beings and are pleasant to talk with and interact with. There's anarchists like some guy from Vancouver who's a really a great guy here on YouTube. But then there's other people like fucking Vaush who are just complete grifters and assholes, and they're not interested in having an honest argument or discussion at all. So, I am thankful that you took the time to type out this entire comment for me. That you gave me all these links and all this stuff. It shows that you are actually invested in having a conversation. Obviously, I'm invested in having a conversation. I'm sorry if you think that I misrepresented your shit, if you think that I strawmanned all of your arguments and argued in bad faith. Again, that was not my intent. I'd be more than happy to clear up any kind of misunderstandings I may have had about your position in a future video. So, all that is to say, you say, I think you should check out the rest of my videos in that series. I'll even give you an updated copy. And so you say, have a wonderful day, comrade, and happy holidays. So thank you so much. I will check out all of these links. And yeah, all that is to say, I appreciate this interaction. I feel like it was constructive, that there wasn't just a huge amount of mudslinging and name calling and all that stuff. So based on the past interactions I've had with anarchists, this is definitely one that stands out as being a good interaction, a pleasant interaction. I honestly wish that there were more anarchists out here, like Re-Education, who would actually listen to the videos instead of just immediately call me like a fucking red fascist tanky scum. So, I commend you for that, friend. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thank you very much for this long comment. I really appreciate it. And if you want to have a discussion in the future, I'd be more than happy to come to Discord or something like that and just have a discussion. I wouldn't even call it a debate because, like I said, I think we agree on a great deal of many things out there. And yeah, to have a discussion about the dictatorship of the proletariat or the withering away of the state or anarchism versus Marxism, I think would be very interesting, both for your audience and for mine. And I think we, have things that we can both learn about one another from that. So all that is to say, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, or dislike if you want. If you didn't like this video, feel free to dislike it too. I'm not going to stop you. Anyway, happy holidays, comrades, and I shall see you next time.